Well, this is a little video about what I do when I'm not farming, I guess. So it makes our business a little bit different than a lot of farms. We have a retail store where we sell hay, alfalfa, ryegrass, Bermuda grass, straw, Sudan grass by the bale. And today, we didn't bale anything this morning or yesterday because there was a slight possibility of rain. It's all gone. However, the barn where we sell all the hay by the bale is not right next to my big barns where I store all of our hay. It's just a couple hundred yards away. So myself, there's a few other guys that do this too, but because we're a little bit slow, I'm helping out. We have to transfer this hay from the barns where we store it over to the barn where we sell it by the bale. That's what I'm doing right now in this Hauser-built, Peterbilt retriever truck. This used to be the only way we hauled hay out of the field. We had 4 at one time, and that's just move hay, move hay, move hay. That's all they did was all summer long, move hay. And it got to where we were moving hay from 20 miles away, and we just couldn't keep up. And then we had to hire a contract squeeze with semis. We paid him for a few years while running the retriever trucks. Finally broke down and bought our first yard squeeze because not only were we paying them to haul the hay, we had to pay them to stack it. And I think he charged $2 or $3 per stack when he set it in the barns. Well, that adds up very quickly. $2 a stack plus $8 a ton for the hauling it. So we finally bought our first yard squeeze. I was 14 years old at the time. None of us had run a squeeze before, so it was very kind of figure it out as we go. And we started stacking our own hay in our barns. And I imagine that squeeze paid for itself very quickly when you think of $2 a stack, and there's thousands and thousands of stacks. So after we had the yard squeeze, it's an old Caterpillar forklift with a Clirf clamp on it, and it's all the same. We have that Clirf clamp. The Clirf is the best. I love that clamp. I'd like to get it on my Roadrunner squeezes too eventually, but after 4 years, we got to where we kind of knew what we were doing. We switched over to, or we didn't switch, but we also purchased a Oregon Roadrunner. This was in 2004, and it was used. It was an 01. We got it in 04, and then we never did buy our own semis. What we did was hired a contractor for that as well. We did run the squeeze ourselves. We had a lot more control over that. Saved a lot more. We were able to save a lot of money that way. We're just at the point where we weren't quite ready to take the plunge to having semis and drivers, insurance, DOT, diesel. Well, we go through a lot of diesel already, but we had semis to the mix. So we kept the contractor for that part, and we still do. Trucks are difficult. We haul a lot of hay in the summer, and then our winters are very slow, and it's hard to keep employees in the semi in the wintertime. It's hard to keep them employed and keep them paid. So I hire a contractor in the wintertime. He hauls hay for other people. He picks up a lot of hay out of California and hauls it to dairies. Cheap hay, cheap Bermuda grass in California, and hauls it to dairies here in Arizona. So he's able to keep his drivers busy that way. So yeah, anyways, one of the retail stores, what makes us different, and that's where we started. When we had the feedlot, we were running the feedlot, we always had a little bit of baled hay, and people would ask my grandpa if they could buy a bale or two from him, and he didn't really know what it was worth because it wasn't really something he figured. It was just used for the feedlot, feeding cows. And generally it was dry hay or hay that was close. We actually hired our neighbors to bale it for us. We weren't even baling it at the time. We kind of realized maybe there's something in this. Cotton prices are getting lower. Cattle prices are getting lower. We might need to make a change. And he slowly made a change. The truth is, my dad didn't want to do it. His mind was, we're going to have all these people driving in and out of our farm. We're going to have car accidents, the liability. Things are just going to be terrible. Our tractors are there. People are going to start stealing things. And luckily, knock on wood, we've had very few accidents, mostly squeezes, bumping into trailers or bumpers on trucks. It's just, we've been very fortunate, and we've had some good and some bad employees, operators, but for the most part, we haven't had any bad accidents. So it's a good thing. My dad, he just wanted to farm. He didn't want to be a retail store. He didn't want to deal with all the people. But glad they made the change, because it's what's made our business what it is today. And then that slowly turned into people kind of heard or drove by, and we started selling it by the ton or wholesale. All right, so this stack's missing a couple bales. This is some late February hay. It's not very pretty. It doesn't haul very well either. Just gonna make it work. I don't know how much you can see behind me, but this truck hauls one stack at a time. It tilts backward, very similar to a dump truck, and then it squeezes with some clamps at the bottom. It clamps into a stack of hay. Then I tilt the stack forward, and then there's a rack on top that goes down and squishes the top down, and it holds the stack. And it's also how we deliver hay all over the valley. Sorry, I gotta look at it. Just got a text. My phone's always going off. Some t-shirt stuff. If you guys don't see the t-shirts, that's actually a new design. Might be a Dodge first gen flatbed, might not be, who knows. So we slowly got into the wholesale process, and we've had some good customers. I think there's four different guys that have been buying hay from us for over 10 years now. But it could change. It could always change. One thing my grandpa and my dad wanted from the beginning was quality. They didn't want to be known for making a lower quality product. They wanted to make a good product, and it's been a learning process over time. We're always trying to change things to make things better, but one of the most important things is consistency. Quality is important, but the consistency, so your customer knows what he is getting every time. He either knows he's getting dry hay every load, he knows he's getting bleached hay every load, or he knows he's getting green leafy hay every load. As long it doesn't, they're getting what they pay for, but as long as they know. And one of the important factors in consistency is weight, because we supply a lot of feed stores. Those feed stores want to know that bale of hay is going to weigh 93 to 95 pounds. On all of our balers, we have mounted scales on the back of them, and so the driver inside the baler, all 5 balers, there's a little screen, and it shows the weight that falls off as that bale. Every bale comes off. It doesn't average the bale. There's a setting. It averages the 10 bales. The last 10 bales, it averages their weight. It tells them every single bale weight that comes off. We're trying something new this year called a bale ski. I've never heard of it. It's like a ski, like skis. That's a bale ski. The best way to describe it's a cheese grater. If you imagine a cheese grater, it runs smooth one way and then rough the other. So as the bale slides out, it's smooth. but it's rough going back in. And every time the plunger and the baler pushes a bale of hay and the plunger moves back, that bale slides back. In a stock baler, there's a lot of movement. The bale slides, the plunger pushes it, the bale comes back a little bit. The plunger pushes it, the bale comes back. The idea behind the bale ski is you don't have any of that backwards movement. So the bale moves once forward, or once forward. It doesn't move forward and then back, forward and then back. The two things: one, that's better on our baler. They now run less pressure. Two, there's less movement and therefore holding more leaf on the bale itself. This is our first year running it. I've got two of them. We put the one in to run a little bit earlier in the year, or to run first to see if we like it. So far we like it. It looks like we're going to put the second one in. Also this year, a friend of mine turned me onto this product called Dynacure. And it helps cure the hay out a little faster, but more than curing the hay, it's a non-synthetic, best way to describe it, a glue. It helps the leaves stay on the stem even when it is extremely dry. So even though it'll be dry hay, it still has a lot of leaf in there. So a lot of horse people put the hay in a bucket or a barrel, and yeah, the leaves fall off, but they fall off in that barrel, so the horse is still able to get the leaf in the bottom of that barrel. Where if you throw it on the ground or something with holes in the bottom, which a lot of them do, so if water gets in the barrel or the metal container, the water runs out. But so we're trying that. It's kind of pricey. It's actually mounted on the swather, and it sprays the alfalfa. So that also helps out when raking. You can lose a lot of leaf retention during the raking process, which I like to argue with people that raking is just as important. Swathing, raking, baling, all three processes are just as important to one another. You can't really say one is better. You can swath, you can lay hay down and it leaves it clumpy, and you get those clumps, and then you rake it, and then you bale it, and you get mold in your bales. You might even get some hot bales and start a fire. So one, your swather is very important. Also, our swather has dual conditioners, so it's drying the hay out a little faster. So it's essentially squishing, cracking the stem of the alfalfa to let the moisture in it release and dry faster. That's also important. So two reasons important. Raking is important. If you rake at the wrong time, either too early or you tighten that hay up and you rope it together, and it doesn't want to cure or dry out, which makes problems with baling it. Or if you rake it too late, you're going to just beat the leaves. The leaves will just fall off to where you go to bale it, it just looks like a bunch of light green sticks. So raking is important in that aspect. Then there's baling. If you bale too green, you'll mold hay, or you'll get hot hay, catch a fire, or it turns, it like kind of sort of tobaccos. It looks like a tobacco leaf. It turns brown, but it doesn't catch on fire. It's not necessarily bad for the animal, but it does lose feed value as it sits in there and turns. The protein is actually leaving. Or vice versa, you go too dry, and as that plunger is pushing that bale, or that flake in the bale, it's knocking all the leaves off. So all three processes are extremely important to making a nice, consistent bale of hay. So like I said, we're always trying something different. Last year we added the dual conditioners. Well, 2 years ago we added the dual conditioners to the swather. We really liked it. So this is our second swather with the dual conditioners. We've got a very new swather with some upgraded pieces on the head of the swather. The machine itself is pretty much the same. And then we're trying the Dynacure and the bale skis. So the Dynacure and the bale ski is new to us. A lot of people run the bale skis. I guess they're more popular on 2-string bales, and they're made for New Holland balers. So it was a little bit of it took us a little bit to find the right match for our Hestons. this machine's a little slow. Like the pump's just not turned up. But anyways, so yeah, consistency is important, and another aspect of consistency is storage. We used to tarp a lot of hay. We try to get away from tarping hay. Tarps get holes in them, they rip, they break. Water can sit on top of a stack. The stack actually sweats underneath the tarp. All of that moisture then goes to the top of the tarp and then just falls right down on the hay, because there is no space between. The tarp is resting physically on the hay, so there is no space between the top of the stack and the tarp. We do make a pyramid out of the hay so the tarps run down, so the water runs off. In the past, I've made really wide tarps. They're harder to get that tarp nice and tight. They've been 6 and 7 stacks wide. Talking with the tarping company, we're dropping down to a 5 wide tarp now, or 5 wide stack. With a more narrow stack, they can cinch that tarp down a lot tighter and hopefully get the water off the stack quicker. However, that requires a lot of manual labor. 1, putting the tarp on. 2, every time I need to pull hay out of that tarp, someone has to go and pull the tarp off, fold it back, or kind of like getting into a loaf of bread. You gotta pull the plastic, pull the bread out, then put the plastic back on if you want to keep it green. You can pull the tarp all the way off, but then you have a whole stack of hay sitting there with sun getting on it. So I just tarp, and they're dangerous too. People have to climb up there every time you want to move tarp. Right now, I'm moving hay out of barns. I like barns. Barns are expensive, an expensive cost up front, but I figure after 4 to 5 years, I've got the cost down to the same as a tarp, and that even includes all the bale, the hay loss we have with tarps. The top bales, you lose about, I think I've got it down to about 13% of the stack is lowered in quality if it's been tarped. Just because the top bales and the bottom bales with these barns, it's very, very, very minimum. There's not much loss at all. I've got a barn right now that has 2 holes in it. All we'll do is go up on top of that barn with some tar, tar or adhesive of some sort, and they'll put it over the spot where the hole is, and that's it, fixed. But I never have to go on top of a barn, except to fix a hole once every few years. I can go in and out of a barn as many times. I can set hay in it and pull hay out as many times as I want in a year, which every time I do that, the value of the barn to me goes up, but the cost of the barn goes down. So right now we've got 8 in this area right here, and then I've got another 3 on our main yard, and then another 2 that I rent from a guy. So from another family. So when we're talking about building 2 more this year, we had to tarp. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had to tarp about 5,000 tons of hay this year, and I just do not like tarping hay. I do not like doing it. So back to consistency. These barns hold hay very consistent. I don't have to worry about bad bales coming out, bad bottoms, bad tops. It all comes out looking nice. Along with consistency, it is my job. I go out to every truckload and look at every single stack before we bring it into our barns, and I judge the quality of the hay, because when I open a barn up, I want to know that hay is the same all the way through. I don't want any surprises. I just want to know, look, this barn number 7 is a specific quality, a certain quality from the first stack to the last stack. That way I know it helps with it taking inventory. I look at a barn, I can count every stack in the barn easy. It's 8 across, 2 high, 24 rows long. Okay, that's easy. But to know what quality is in that barn is the difficult part. Well, if I look at every single truckload and every single stack that goes in it, then I know that barn, that specific barn number, is full of a specific quality, and I just count the hay, and I can get my inventory that way. Because inventory is important. There are different qualities of hay. People might think a bale of alfalfa is a bale of alfalfa. That's not true. I've got 3 different ages of fields. We have first year, second year, and third year alfalfa, and every stage every year is different. Then spring hay, the stuff we're doing right now, it's very stemmy because it's older. It's probably some of it's 60 days old. It went all of December, January, and most of it in February. Some of it all of February. Then we had a big storm. 3 weeks worth of storms come through, so we weren't able to cut hay for a while, even green chop it. So everything's big stemmed right now. Most horse people want small stem, very leafy hay. Right, and green. Right now the hay is very leafy because we have a lot of moisture when we're baling. It's very green. Unfortunately, the stems are medium to large in size. So I need to keep all of this separate, and then as I store it, and keep that into account when it comes time to selling it. Now, the hay is sold at different prices as well. And on top of that, we do a lot of custom harvesting where we go in, swath, rake, and bale, and then purchase the hay from that farmer. If he's got a 5 or 6 year old stand of alfalfa, the quality is not going to be very good, and I cannot sell it at the same price that I'm selling my alfalfa this small stem. So I have to take that into account when I'm out there looking at hay. I make notes. I've got a special paper. I make all the notes, and we buy it from a farmer at that price. A lot of people argue that I've now become a hay broker as well. The term hay broker is kind of funny. When they first started, there was always a home for the hay. That's almost where it started. Someone that needed hay would contact the broker. I need this many tons for my dairy or my feedlot or my feed store. Okay. And the broker would go find the farmer and buy the hay. Now brokers are buying hay all year long, and we're storing it up in our barns. And the price of hay when we buy it might not be the same as when we sell it. Last year there was a shortage on hay. Let's see, 2 years ago, 2018, there was a shortage on hay. So the 2019 spring came along. Everyone thought their hay value was still very high, and we bought a lot of expensive hay. We went in there, we baled it, we brought it back. We had $230, $240 a ton into some hay. Well, everyone was growing hay the very next that same year, all that summer. So all this spring hay was very expensive. Well, then it came to last year, at the end of 2019, and that hay that I bought and stored, after you buy it, have freight into it, pay for your barns, pay for your office, and shrinkage. Hay shrinks a little bit, 6%, just depending how time of year you put it up. I kind of average 6% just across the board. Some of it will, some of it won't. Whew, that was scary. No, offset stack. We're selling it for $225 a ton. So after you get $240 into it and you're selling it for $225, do the math, that's a loss. So it's a gamble, and then people like to there's a bad connotation or bad vibes when it comes to hay brokers, but a lot of hay brokers are taking a big chance and they're losing a lot of money. Whether you consider us a hay broker for buying hay that we custom harvest ourselves, I lost a lot of money on a lot of hay last year. Luckily, we make a lot of our own hay. That's able to equal out the cost, but I really don't like losing money. It's a lot of work that goes into, a lot of hours, a lot of work, and a lot of money just to lose money on several thousand tons. So I guess why people don't like hay brokers too is they say, oh, they just buy and sell hay without ever looking at it. I don't buy any hay without looking at it first. I personally, or my dad, look at every truckload of hay before it comes in here. So I'm not sending something to someone And it always comes to me before it goes somewhere else. I don't buy a load of hay and then send it to someone without looking at it. I buy it, it comes to my barn, and it sits in my barn for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months before it can be sold, sometimes before it's sold. So the term broker is not what everyone wants to think it is. But which reminds me, I'm supposed to be looking for some big bales for 2 customers. I forgot about that. Whoops. Anyway, so yeah, our store is now turned into just selling. All we did was sell little 3-string bales. That's all we did. Then we added on. People started asking about bagged feed. Do you guys have any bagged feed? No, we don't. So we looked into it. Probably around 10 years ago, we started selling bagged feed. Our office was very small, and our office is our old shop, actually. I remember when I was little, I'd call the office to talk to my dad or my grandpa or whatever, just because I was excited to talk to people. And then I could hear the background going. So we turned we built a new shop. Well, we had an old grain mill from where we milled for the feedlot. We turned that into a shop, and we turned the shop into an office. And then we turned part of the old shop into a store where we'd sell the bagged feed out of the old shop. We outgrew that by quite a bit, so we had a little lean-to on the side of the office. It's probably 20 foot by probably 30 by 20 or so. Just a lean-to, open to the elements, bugs, not bugs, rodents, birds, everything would get in there. And it finally got to the point where we had to store the hay in one barn, bring it over every morning with a forklift, and these full pallets were being hand stacked into single bags. It was such a waste of time and resources, and you're constantly moving pallets. And that forklift, my forklift had a bent fork. One fork was bent upwards. I don't know why. I feel stupid now. Such an easy fix. Go buy new forks for your forklift. It's like $200. So I bought 2 forks. Now they're perfectly flat. So wherever one goes, the other one's right there, the same height. So we quit poking, but we were stabbing bags and just breaking bags of feed. So like, now we're losing so much money. Plus, feed was getting forgotten about. When they'd stack it in this barn, the new feed would come in, and I didn't have any pallet shelves. So probably the best money spent in the last couple of years is $200 worth of forks, and then a few $1,000s worth of pallet shelves to go in there and stack all of our bagged feed. And now you can see, because you couldn't see, there'd just be pallets all over the floor of this barn. Like, where is this? Where is that? Nobody knows. I don't know. So now everything's stacked up, and you can see everything just by looking at the shelves. So that has been a huge savings, because we're not losing pallets, we're not losing bags aren't going bad, and we're not breaking them because we're not moving them as often. So that has been a big help. And also, we built a new bagged feed sales where we sell it out of. It's 40 foot by 50 foot, and it's nice. And I put a full-time employee in there. That's all he does is load, because you don't load your own hay at our place. So I have employees that load hay for you. So now I have an employee that loads bagged feed for you. Some of those bags weigh 80 pounds. They're big, they're awkward. I don't like loading them. So also, bags were getting stolen, or someone would pay for a specific bag and then they would load a different bag. For instance, the chicken feed, there's a cheap chicken feed that's like $6, and there's a nice expensive chicken feed that's $30. Well, people would pay for the $6 one, walk out there and load the $30 one. And we would be off at the end of a month. Man, our inventory would be off by hundreds of bags, 100, 110, 115, 120. Now, with this new system, we're off like 3 a month. And yeah, I had to spend a lot of money building a new building, a new barn, in hiring a new guy, but when you look at the loss of stolen and broken bags, forgotten about bags, we're doing a lot better. It'll take time, it'll pay for itself, but it's gonna pay for itself. So I'm pretty excited about that. But so yeah, that's just a little history of our place. And what I do when we're not baling hay, when I'm not running a squeeze, there's always something to do around this place. And this store is why I'm busy. I'm picking up a little stack. You're not supposed to pick up little stacks, but I'm gonna pick up a little stack. This is why I'm busy all winter long too. This isn't just a summer farm. It's all summer, all winter. All summer, all winter. So always on the phone, dealing with, talking to customers, new customers, old customers, potential customers, putting out fires, dealing with deliveries. Someone got the wrong stack of hay. Being a retail store, there's always a problem. You go from being just a regular farmer, having just a few customers, maybe a dairy or two, a broker or two, or if you're growing cotton, you have a cotton broker or a grain contract. Now we have hundreds, and if you add in our customers, our feed stores, you now have probably up to 1,000 customers. So there's always a phone call, there's always a complaint, having employees, young men that just load hay and pickups, there's always a issue there. So yeah. So anyways, that's the other part of the farm I don't talk about as much, even though it probably takes up more of my time, more of my stress, more of my headaches than the actual farming. I guess you could, I always think this is kind of boring, but it's where a lot of the drama in my life comes from. Maybe I'll try to talk about that more often. Like right now, I've got a couple letters out to customers that don't want to pay their bills. So I had to get the attorney to send them a nice letter telling them they need to pay their bills. It happens more often than not, and it happens fairly easily. Lack of communication on my part with my office. Hey, has this guy paid his bill? Because he ordered another truckload of hay. Well, next thing you know, you've taken him 4 loads of hay, and all of a sudden you realize he hasn't paid. He didn't pay for the 4. He hasn't paid for 4. So it happens. It happens to all of us. It happens to every hay grower. There's a hay grower out there that has not been paid. It's sad, but it's true. When you think of all the inputs, all the money we have spent, and there's farmers with $100,000, $200,000, several, $50,000, $60,000 worth of hay that's not been paid for, and it probably won't get paid for. That's the sad part. Any farmer you talk to, there is definitely, any hay farmer anyways, there's definitely hay that's not been paid for. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. I guess I can climb out and show you the piece of machinery I'm driving right now. I have this sweet GoPro mounted to the dash of the truck. Whoops. Yeah, I'm gonna need 1, 2. Well, see, you're not supposed to pick up small stacks. It just doesn't go well. I guess I should come back with the squeeze. It's just a few bales, but I mean, I pick up the big stacks just fine, but I just didn't want to have to go get a different piece of equipment. But so this is the truck that I'm hauling with. It's made by the Hauser family up in Camp Verde, Arizona. I bought this truck used from another farmer. He decided delivering hay to people is just not worth it. Some people it's not. He farms kind of far away. We farm closer to Phoenix, so for us it's doable. This is that late February hay. Big stems. It's green. It's very green. It's very leafy. But it's not necessarily people's favorites. Here's some more of it. There's some hay that's left over from last year. We'll compare the stems and this green hay. You have to let it get so dry these stems, you have to get the stems dry. You can't bale with green stems. Well, by the time you get the stems dry enough, look at these leaves are just ground up powder. It's just like powdery. Look at this. It's just, so that's why this time of year there's some leaves. So those are intact leaves. They still have you can tell it's a leaf. That other stuff was just ground up. Here's some last year's hay, smaller stem. It was actually baled up a little bit dry, but it's last year's. You can see these stems are a lot smaller. That's what people like. Yeah, it was dry. There's some leaf in there, but it's still nice hay. Got a couple 100 tons of it. Yeah, this stuff's real small stemmed. A little bit dry though. A little bit dry. Get more of it over to the barn. We should move some of this today too. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks.